Well, welcome everyone to Energy Benchmarking 101. My name is Katie Kaluzny. I'm the Deputy Director of the Illinois Green Alliance, and I'm directing the programming for the Building Energy Resource Hub. During today's webinar, we're going to demystify the process to benchmark your building's energy use using Energy Star Portfolio Manager. We also have special guest speaker today from ComEd's Energy Usage Data System and Calico Energy to share how easily their tool is to collect your electricity data and utilize in the energy benchmarking process. You have all been muted upon entry in order to minimize background noise during the presentation portion, but please utilize the chat feature to share your questions and we will address them at the end of the session. If we don't get to everyone's question before the end of the hour, I will stay on and let everyone unmute to answer any additional questions. Today's webinar is being recorded, and we will send out a follow-up email with the recording, a PDF of the slide deck, and any additional resources and links that are shared during today's session. And before we jump in, I just wanted to share a few quick notes about the Building Energy Resource Hub. The Energy Resource Hub is a new project of the Illinois Green Alliance. The hub is serving as an objective resource for building professionals of all levels of familiarity with energy efficiency. And our goal is to serve Chicago and Northeastern Illinois area stakeholders with critical training and resources to ensure that the region can meet aggressive climate action goals within the building sector while building an inclusive green economy. Some of the industry resources that you can find on the Building Energy Resource Hub website include industry playbooks and guidance, technology primers, pathways to finance your projects, ability to find a service provider, case studies. You can ask an expert questions, share your own expertise with those asking questions, and also find education sessions like today's webinar. If you want to learn more about the hub and the resources, we have the the web address here, buildinghub.energy, and also the QR code for you to go and check out that resource. So we're going to jump into Energy Benchmarking 101. During this session, I'm going to talk about how to use Energy Star, how to create your account in Energy Star, create a building profile, how to gather and enter your utility data, how to share data with others, and then how to assess your building energy use if you're looking to check out your performance of your building afterwards. So to just get started, Energy Star, you might be familiar with the label. It was created by the EPA in 1992 to provide resources and tools for businesses and households to manage and improve their energy use. More than 700 utilities, state and local governments, and nonprofits use Energy Star in their efficiency programs and refer to Energy Star in many different building standards. Energy Star Portfolio Manager is a free tool that the EPA has created to help building managers understand their energy use. It also helps you track your water and waste and materials consumption as well over time. It's a really great way for you to check out how your building is performing if you're not sure. And it helps you also assess, how you stack up against other buildings of your same type and size by giving you a 1 to 100 Energy Star score, or what's called an EUI, or an energy use intensity, which talks about how much energy you use per square foot. So it's a really great tool to both understand how you're doing over time, but also how you do to compared to other buildings. The benefits of tracking your building data. You've heard this before, I'm sure, but you can't manage what you don't measure. And so you want to start measuring your building's usage and all of the different types of resources that it's using, energy, water, and waste. It helps identify underperforming buildings that have an opportunity for efficiency improvements. Benchmarking helps to identify best practices from other efficient buildings, set your investment priorities for the future, verify savings, and prevent any slip back into performing worse than the year before. You can share and report your performance to people that are asking for that, whether that's investors, clients, or municipality. You can also earn recognition if your energy use is above average, and then implement any comprehensive management programs. And it really helps you track how those are doing over time and seeing if the things that you're implementing are helping to improve your performance. So just a few reasons why you'd use Portfolio Manager, but I'm sure many of you are aware of that already. That's why you're here in today's webinar. So we're going to get started. I'm going to start by talking to you about how to set up an Energy Star Portfolio Manager account. Throughout today's session, I'm going to show you a lot of different screenshots that are going to kind of walk you through the process. They are a little bit text heavy and screenshot heavy, but I do think it's going to be useful when you go back to your own computer and you're trying to figure out how to do this on your own. You can have the PowerPoint deck to go through and help you follow along and set this up yourself as well. So if you don't have a Portfolio Manager account already, you'll go to portfoliomanager.energystar.gov. And on the right-hand side, there's a section where it says to enter your username and password and log in, or to create a new account. And you can click register now or log in if you've already done that. Once you're in here, you're creating a personal account. This is your login. This is nothing about your building yet. It's just about how you are able to access Portfolio Manager. So you want to create a username and password that you know, or that you're willing to share with others if you're going to be sharing this account with other folks at your work. So you're putting in your name, your job title, your email, so that you can get verification emails to go ahead and set up your account. Once you've created your account and verified the email that's come in to your email account, you're able to log into Portfolio Manager, and you're going to see this heading when you log in. You're going to see these 4 tabs at the top, which you're going to spend most of your time in: My Portfolio, Sharing, Reporting, and Recognition. My Portfolio has a bunch of sub tabs as well, more related to your building, and we're going to jump into those next. But the first thing you're going to want to do is to add a property. If you already have created properties, you're going to see all the properties listed that are either you've created or that have been shared with you in your account here. If you haven't created a property yet, this is all going to be blank. So when you click add a property, you're going to navigate into this new tab here, and it's going to ask you a lot of questions. And the question it's going to ask you next is going to help set you up to make sure you're understanding the energy use of your specific property type. So it's kind of a tutorial or a wizard where it's asking a bunch of questions, and then based on your answers, it's going to ask you some more questions that dig deeper into how energy is used at your building. And the first thing it's going to ask you is, what's the primary use type of your building or your property type? And you're going to want to pick the property type that's more than 50% of the main use of your building. There's 80 different choices here, and there's definitions of all the different property types. So if you're not sure what the primary use type based on the drop-down list here, you can click on the glossary with Energy Star, and it's going to show you what these different property types and find the one that's most likely yours. You'll have an opportunity to add secondary use types. So if you have a multifamily building that also has commercial space, but it's primarily multifamily, you'll be able to add some additional information about the commercial space later on. Once you select the primary use type, you're going to select that this is an existing building and that the building is a single property. If your building is part of a campus, or there's multiple buildings that are connected together using the same energy system, you might click the box that says more than one. If you're a tenant within a building that you're just trying to benchmark the tenant space of your building, you're going to click none, my property is part of a building. But most people are going to click one, my property is a single building here. And then you click get started to go next. Once you go on the next page, it's going to ask you some basic property information about the building. So again, the first page that you were on, that was setting up your account and your personal information. And now we're going to set up information about your property. So you're first going to want to name the building that you recognize and someone else would recognize if you were to share this building with them later. So it might be the name of your building if your building has a name, or a lot of times people put the address of their building. And then you also put what country it's in, the street address, municipality, state and postal code. This information is also helping Energy Star Portfolio Manager to know where you are in the country, because it's also helping to understand what the weather and climate is like where you are. So Energy Star Portfolio Manager does what it's called weather normalized your data. So depending on where you are in the country, it's going to know that you're in the Chicagoland area. And so the climate in this area during the annual months that you put in the energy data, kind of what was the temperature at that time. It's also going to ask you for your gross floor area. And a lot of times this isn't a number that people have readily on hand. It's different than rentable or leasable square feet. This is the total inside of your building, from floor to ceiling, and from wall to wall. What's the total conditioned space of the building? And then the other question it's going to ask if maybe some of these other things apply. So does your property have a parking area? Or does your property contain a data center? Or does your property contain a swimming pool, or a restaurant or a cafeteria? And if you click yes on some of these boxes down at the bottom, it's just going to ask you some more questions about those different qualities of your building later on. Parking is something that is commonly selected if you have on-site parking that has additional lighting or conditioned space as well. I'm going to walk through a few different types of building use types that you would put into Portfolio Manager because they all have different characteristics. And as I mentioned, there's 80 different use types. I'm not going to talk about how to enter data for all 80 types, but I'm going to talk about 3 different ones just to show kind of the different questions that Portfolio Manager is going to ask you as you keep walking through this tutorial. So if you're working on a multifamily property, the multifamily property questions are going to include, what is the gross floor area of the multifamily property use? So you entered the total gross square footage when you started the property type. If your full building is multifamily, then you're just going to enter that same number here again for gross floor area. But if this part of your building is only 75% of the building or 80% of the building, then you want to enter a different number, which is just the gross floor area of the multifamily space. And then it's going to ask you some questions about the number of residential living units and then how tall your building is. You have to fill in all of these fields. So if your building is 4 stories or under, you're going to put all of the units in this column. If your building is a mid-rise building, you'll put all of the units in this field and then put 0 for the low rise and 0 for the high rise. And the number of bedrooms is asking if you have a building that is all 1-bedroom apartments or all studio apartments, your total number of living units and your number of bedrooms might be the same. But if you have 2-bedroom units, 3-bedroom units, you're going to add up the total number of bedrooms from all those units. And that's helping Portfolio Manager to understand the approximate occupancy of your building and how many people are likely using energy there without knowing the total resident count. Energy Star has a really great glossary as well. So any of the blue underlined questions that it's asking here, if you click on any of them, it's going to take you to a glossary page in Energy Star. It'll open up a whole new tab and you can scroll through alphabetically and understand what Energy Star is trying to ask you here. So it's a really great resource to make sure you're putting in the correct information. Another common use type is office properties. An office property is going to ask different questions than a multifamily property use. It's going to ask the gross floor area again, which we talked about, but it's also going to ask weekly operating hours. So if the building is open Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, and that's the only time that people are using the space and turning on the lights and using energy, then you'll put 40 hours. But if it's used at different times of the week, you're trying to find kind of what the average is per week over the year, and put the weekly operating hours in there. Number of workers, so how many people are there on a main shift, and the most common time, the approximate number of computers that are being used within the building, and then the percent of the building that can be heated and cooled. So very different questions than multifamily. And then similarly, there's a lot of worship facilities or churches that are also using energy benchmarking to understand their energy use. This has some similar questions as the other 2 you'll notice, but it also talks about seating capacity. It talks about gross floor area used for food preparation, just getting at a question about whether commercial cooking is used and some additional energy that might be used there. Number of computers, and then also ceiling height, which is really helpful. A lot of worship facilities have very tall ceilings in their seating capacity areas. So really, this is again having Energy Star understand kind of how much conditioned space is being using energy. And I mentioned before, a lot of facilities also have parking and parking that uses energy on their utility bills. And so if you've clicked at the beginning that you're using, you're adding a property, and parking is some of the piece on site. It's going to ask you about the open parking lot size, so kind of a surface level parking, and that has kind of, lighting or lighting poles within that open parking lot size. If there's a partially enclosed garage size, or if it's completely enclosed. And you're going to have to put a number in each of these. You can put 0, 0, and then a full number. You just have to always fill in fields that have an asterisk before moving on. And then after you answer all of the questions that Portfolio Manager has for you, setting up your primary use type, you have the ability to go back and add a secondary use type. And there's a couple of rules and caveats for adding secondary use type that I'm just going to share here. I'm also happy to answer any specific questions that people have at the end of the webinar, because this is usually really specific to your building and nuanced to your building. So the EPA recommends that you enter as few property use types as possible to just make it as easy to benchmark as you can. Consider only adding a secondary use type if it's more than 25% of the gross floor area or has significantly different operating hours than the other use types within the building. Primary use types, just so you know, take into consideration spaces that are typically found in that property type. For example, a multifamily building is going to assume that you may have a workout room, a community room, or even maybe a small retail establishment within the building that's maybe less than 5,000 square feet. So you don't need to separate all of those things out as separate use types. Those are all going to be accounted for in Portfolio Manager already in a multifamily building selection. But anything less than $5,000 or 5,000 square feet does not need to be broken out and should be included in the primary use gross floor area to begin with. I have a link at the bottom of this slide to understand this property use types and definitions and use details if you want to dig into this a little bit further. But once you do this and set up that secondary use type, you're pretty much done setting up your property, and you will never have to set that up again unless any of those use type details change. And the main thing you're going to focus on after that is entering utility data. So I'm going to talk next about tracking utility data and using the Energy tab in Portfolio Manager. We're going to talk here about adding utility meters, gathering gas utility data, gathering electricity usage data, using the ComEd Energy Usage Data System with our special speakers for today, and then how to enter that data into Portfolio Manager. So once you've set up your building account, as you saw, we were on the My Portfolio tab. We added our building. A lot of those details you can find on the Summary and the Details tab, all of the square footage and the secondary use types that we already added. And now we're going to move on to the Energy tab here within your building's profile. On the Energy tab, you're going to first add a meter to get started. And you'll want to note there's some really great instructions here for you based on your area. So you've entered your address, you've entered a lot of information already that helps Portfolio Manager know kind of what utilities are near your area and some additional resources you might have. And so there's some really nice helpful hints in this box with the exclamation point. And then you can go ahead and add a meter. If you want to select all the different energy sources that your building is using, in most cases, folks are going to set up an electric meter or an electric meter and a natural gas meter. Some people may have fuel oil or district chilled water, district hot water, district steam. That's in different parts of the country. That's more commonly used utility, but in Chicago area and most of the buildings that we've been working with, most people are setting up an electric or a natural gas meter. You're going to be able to gather whole building electric data and whole building gas data from the utilities unless you have the ability to collect all of those bills yourself. And so we're just going to add 1 meter for both electric and gas to move forward. If you are adding meters from bills, you may want to do something differently. And there's some great instructions for that. But assuming you're gathering whole building data from your utilities, we're just going to set up 1 meter for each utility. This page, once you click Add Meters, it's going to ask you for the energy units. And so you want to put For natural gas, your bill is likely coming to you in therms, and your electricity meter is going to come with you in kilowatt hours. And then you want to enter the date the meter became active is the first start date of the first bill that you're going to enter. So let's say your energy benchmarking calendar year 2022. You're going to want to put the date the meter became active as January 1st, 2022. Then you're going to click Create Meters. And Portfolio Manager is going to make sure that you want to use these meters to track your energy performance. So you want to click the meters that are going to be included. And then there's a box to say these meters account for the total energy consumption of my building. And then you click Apply Selections. And that makes sure that when Energy Star is tracking your information, that it is utilizing all the meters that you want it to track your performance. Once you get here, you're able to start setting up your energy data into Portfolio Manager. And you can do this a number of ways. You can actually go in and manually enter your data by entering the start date of the bill, end date of the bill, the usage type, and then click Add Another Entry to go to the next month. So you need 12 total months and 12 total entries, a full calendar year of data for energy performance to be calculated in Portfolio Manager. So for example, if your first bill entered was January 1st, 2022, then the last bill entered needs to end with December 31st, 2022 for you to get an Energy Star score or an EUI or energy use intensity rating. I'm going to talk to you guys about how to gather your whole building energy data because this is the most effective way to put this into your building without going around and asking all of your tenants for their bills, which no one wants to do. So if you're the owner and occupier of the building and you have all of the utility bills for your building and with every meter that is there, you are able to enter the data directly from your bills. In most cases, buildings have multiple tenants that have different meters and different accounts. And so the more efficient way to do this is to send a request to your utility for whole building aggregated data. And this whole building aggregated data request allows for the tenant data to still stay anonymous, but for you to have an understanding of the whole energy use of your building so you can better understand the performance. So when you submit a request to People's Gas or NICOR or ComEd, they're going to give you 12 full months of the whole building data. So a number for January, a number for February, a number for March that aggregates all of the meters within the building, which is really helpful and a lot easier to benchmark your building. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to do that from People's Gas. Again, this slide is very text heavy, but mostly for using afterwards. There is an information request form on the People's Gas, North Shore Gas website. You can fill out that form. You're going to need to have the meter number for every natural gas meter on your building. So finding where those meters are and entering as many as you can to ensure that all of the data is being aggregated. If your building has fewer than 4 tenants, you may need to get an information release form from each of those tenants. And then what you'll get back is you'll get an email with the aggregated monthly usage from the previous calendar year, identification of the building, and all of the accounts that were aggregated by People's Gas, so to make sure that you know what is accounted for within that data request. With NICOR Gas, you'll need to send the tenant and unit list with the tenant names and unit numbers. Again, include a meter number list with each account. And then NICOR may ask you to fill out a landlord agreement form to verify the person requesting the data is allowed to receive the data, and then email that request to customer care at NICOR Gas, and you'll receive an email back with that information as an attachment. Up next, I'm going to talk to you about how you can get that data from ComEd. ComEd has a really great tool called the Energy Usage Data System. It is an automated system to request your data and fill that out. And so I'm going to introduce Eliza Webb from Calico Energy. I'm working in partnership with ComEd on the Energy Usage Data tool to explain how this tool works. I'll turn over to you, Eliza, and let me know when you want to go to the next slide.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. Hello, everyone. Like Katie mentioned, my name is Eliza Webb. I help support the EUDS, work with Calico Energy. Just to give you a quick background of the EUDS, Katie, will you move to the next slide, please? So the EUDS, or the Energy Usage Data System, was developed in 2008. This was well ahead of Chicago's benchmarking ordinance that they put in place in 2013. Calico has been working with ComEd for many years, and we understand the utility's data structure. So we understood how challenging it can be for building owners and building managers to obtain each individual tenant's usage. And we knew there was an easier way to do that without compromising the privacy of building owners' tenants. Next slide, please. So in the EUDS, I'm just going to go over really quickly the activities you'll be able to perform in the tool. So as a building owner or building manager, once you're enrolled, you'll be able to create your buildings. You'll be able to modify those buildings as needed if you needed to add additional addresses. You'll be able to denote the date range of usage you'd like to request. You'll be able to verify the tenants that make up your building, and then you'll be able to view and download your building's usage data, as well as connect that building to Energy Star. Additionally, of course, you're able to update your own profile information, such as your name and contact number. Next slide, please. So the next slides, I'm just going to walk you through different screens in the tool. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the enrollment form can be found on ComEd's energy usage data information page. Once you submit your completed enrollment form, you're going to get a welcome email from us that's going to invite you to finish registering for your account. That registration email does expire after 5 days, so we just encourage everyone to complete that process as soon as you receive the email. Typically, the turnaround time for enrollment forms is about 24 hours. And from there, once you get into the tool, then you can start creating your buildings. Next screen, please. So once you log into the tool for the first time, you're going to see the dashboard. Now the dashboard is going to show you all of the buildings in your portfolio. Of course, when you log in for the first time, you may not have any buildings created. You'll be able to click the button on the top there that says Create Building. You'll be able to enter in a building name, the building's address, and proceed from there. Another thing to note on the dashboard is it's just a summary of all of the buildings in your portfolio. It can be accessed by clicking the dashboard link on the left navigation pane. And additionally, on this screen, you'll be able to access links to give you more information about ComEd's energy efficiency programs, or reach out to their energy efficiency team there as well. Next slide, please. Now, the next screen you're able to access is the buildings list. Much like the dashboard, you'll be able to view and filter your list of buildings. So if you wanted to search by the building's name or the building's address, you can do that more easily on the buildings list here. You can also filter your list of buildings by its address, Energy Star score, if you had buildings connected. The buildings list is just the quickest way to get into your buildings. Next slide, please. Now, each building has its own overview page. Once you've created the building, you'll be able to view the building's addresses, its usage. You can download usage data from this page. And you can also edit the building if you needed to modify any addresses there. You would see that edit building button at the top there. So the buildings have multiple different tabs. You'll see that at the top under 100 West Monroe. You'll see an overview tab, a users tab, usage requests, tenants, and Energy Star. You can click onto each of those to see, for example, users. You can see other users that are associated with your building. So if you have colleagues that need access, we can add them to your building. The usage requests tab, could you actually go to the next slide, please? The usage request tab is where you will submit a request for the date range of data you'd like to see. So for example, in this building here, we're requesting January 2021 through December 2021. A usage request is needed in order for the tenants to populate and for usage to display on the overview tab. You'll see an alert at the top there if there were pending tenants waiting after you've submitted the usage request. Next slide, please. So moving on to the tenants tab, this is where you'll be able to view every tenant that makes up your building and the unit that they are residing in. The other thing about the tenants tab is you'll see a data completeness bar over on the right. Now these bars are just indicative of whether that unit has usage for the time frame that you've requested. So if you see a completely gray bar, that just means there's no usage for the building. Sorry, hang on one moment. And so if you don't expect to have usage in that unit, then that's not cause for concern. But if you saw a wide gap where there's blue on one side and then a big gray gap and then blue on the right side of that, you would want to contact support if you do expect there to be full usage throughout that history there. And then the other thing to note is that on this tenants tab, there are 3 tabs, sub-tabs within this page. So you'll see a pending tab, verified, and rejected. On this page as well, if you wanted to download your tenant list, you can do so in CSV format. There is a button on the top left that says download tenant list. You'll be able to see every tenant and the dates that they resided in that unit. Next slide, please. Now, once you have verified your tenants and submitted your usage request, that is when usage data will be visible on the overview tab of your screen. The great thing is that this visualization is interactive. So as you hover over each of those dots on the graph, you'll be able to see the aggregated usage for that month. And we also stack up each year in addition to that. So it's a great way to visualize your data. Below that graph there as well, you can download your usage data in CSV format. We also offer Energy Star Portfolio Manager compatible upload form if you prefer to upload it directly to Energy Star. And let's see, the other piece of information on the overview tab is under building information. We provide a building ID that is going to be used to connect your building to Energy Star. Next slide, please. All right, so when you're ready to connect your building to Energy Star, you're going to click the Energy Star tab. We have a really great wizard that walks you through each step. You'll click that Connect to Portfolio Manager button. It's going to tell you exactly what you need to do within Energy Star, such as creating or doing a connection request with the EUDS. We also have a really great Energy Star connection guide that's located in the footer of the site. And yeah, you should be able to walk through that process pretty quickly. Once you get your building connected to Energy Star, it's going to automatically push that data directly to there within minutes. And as new data becomes available in the EUDS, that automatically gets pushed there as well. All right, and then next slide, please. The last section I'll talk about today is user management. You'll see at the very top right of the tool, you'll see your little avatar. If you click that, and you can access your profile information if you wanted to update your name or your phone number. And that's also how you would log out of the tool. Next slide, please. And then lastly, just to go over some customer support items. Like I mentioned, we do offer user guides within the tool. We have a building owner guide that walks you through each step of the process for creating your building, submitting a usage request, verifying tenants, you name it, it's in there, as well as that Energy Star connection guide. We also do have an FAQ page, yes. If you have any questions, we recommend reading through that. And then if you're still not finding the answer to your question, please feel free to reach out to support. Our email is energyusagedata@comed.com. And Katie, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. That was so helpful, and I learned some things during that section too that I hope to help with other folks with as well. As I mentioned, this will be available in a follow-up email so that you can follow those steps and click all the links that Eliza shared as well. If you have questions for folks at Calico Energy, there are several of them on the webinar today. Happy to answer your questions in the chat, but I'm going to continue on with some additional ways to use Portfolio Manager.
Katie?
Yes.
Can I just say something about the last part of Eliza's, especially about customer support?
Yes,
I just want to be really clear. The web page that is up currently has those resources, but they are about to be refreshed. So if you're not seeing something, the links in the deck and stuff are the most up to date, and they will be up to date on the web page fairly soon. We're waiting for ComEd, but reach out to support if you have questions about something that you're seeing on the website that isn't reflected in this conversation, like in the deck.
So thanks, Megan. Appreciate that. Yeah, we'll definitely make sure that we send you all the links that you need, and maybe we'll put a couple in the chat here in a second as well. So you have successfully put all of your energy data in now, and you're feeling like an Energy Star Pro and Wizard. Here are some more ways that you might want to use Energy Star. I'm going to also share here how to kind of do that connection request, sharing your properties so that you could do that with ComEd, and how to do those exact steps also are in the user guide that Eliza just mentioned. I'm going to show you how to add contacts and share properties, run the data quality checker, share a few Energy Star resources, and a final checklist. So if you want to work on Portfolio Manager with someone else, the first thing you need to do is add them to your contacts. So someone else needs to already have created their Portfolio Manager account. So you don't need to create the same building a bunch of times, but a lot of different people that you work with or collaborate with may want to have their own Energy Star account, so you can see who's working on the building and give people different access. Once you have other people using Portfolio Manager, you can share that same property with multiple people so that you can have read-only access or edit access and update that property together. But the first thing you need to do is add them as a contact. So we've talked about a lot of the tabs, but here you're going to go up to the very top of the Portfolio Manager page under contacts. You search for the contact if they have a Portfolio Manager account already. You can search for their username, or you can search for their actual name. Try not to put too many things in all the fields because it won't find it for you if you put too many search criteria. So try to find the simplest thing for Portfolio Manager to find. And so similarly, that you might want to look for the ComEd EUDS and the name, and then search for it, and then you'll be able to click connect and move on. Once you've sent that request, the person on the other end needs to accept that request. And so, if you're trying to get that person to accept it so you can share a property, tell them to go up to their notifications in their portfolio manager account and click accept requests. You can see incoming requests, outgoing requests, and then notices, which is, just things that have happened in your account. Once they've accepted that request, you can share properties. And so now we're going to move back down to these tabs. So you see the My Portfolio, and now you have the Sharing tab next to that. So on the Sharing tab, you click Share or Edit Access to a Property. And then on the next page, you are able to add a bunch of different things here and select what you're looking for. So the first thing it's going to ask you to do is select your property. You can select one property or a whole list of properties if you're trying to give access to someone to multiple buildings. And then you're going to search in your contacts. Who are you going to share it with? If you're trying to share it with ComEd, you're going to find this Data Exchange ComEd one. Click that, and then you're going to choose permissions down here below. If you're sharing with coworkers or colleagues or someone that's collaborating with you on your building, you're going to click bulk sharing. And then once you click bulk sharing, another drop down comes down that asks if you want to give someone read-only access or full edit access, things like that, which you can always change later. If you're sharing with ComEd or you're sharing with something else where it's a data exchange between buildings or municipalities, for example, the Village of Oak Park with their new ordinance, they have a sharing with their benchmarking team directly through this. So you'll click, instead of bulk sharing, you click personalized sharing and data exchange, and then it's going to ask you some different questions about how you want to exchange that data. With ComEd and with EUDS, you're going to want to give them full access to your energy meters once you go onto those next pages to make sure that that data exchange can happen between the energy usage data system and portfolio manager. After you've done all of your sharing and you've got all your contacts, the one thing you're going to want to do before you submit your data to anybody or look at how your building's performing is to run the data quality checker, which is a really useful tool in Portfolio Manager. So on the summary tab of your building, there's this cool button at the bottom that says check for possible errors. And then once you click that, it asks you what date range you want it to check for. So you might want to check the previous calendar year just to make sure the data is all in there correctly. Click Run Checker, and then it's going to find any errors that might have happened within the building. Some common errors that Portfolio Manager usually finds is if you've miscalculated the square footage. So let's say you put the gross square footage of your building when you set up the building as 100,000 square feet, and then you put a primary use type as 75,000 square feet of multifamily, and then you added commercial office space as 30,000 square feet of commercial space. Well, that doesn't add up to 100,000, which was what you added originally. So it's going to say there's a square footage mismatch. And so it'll show you where those errors are, but clicking this button helps you find those so you can easily fix those items. Similarly, it'll say if you have any missing bill dates or overlapping dates. It might always tell you that you have no waste data or no water data. If you haven't clicked on the energy or the water or the waste tabs, or are using Portfolio Manager for that, it's not a big deal. It's not required for anything, but it's always going to remind you that there's no data entered there if you don't have it. So just a quick final checklist to see if you've done all of your things to set up your building. And what we've talked about today, first, you set up your Energy Star Portfolio Manager account with your personal information. Then you're going to create your new building, enter those general property details, your primary and secondary use type details. You're going to gather your 12 months of whole building utility data. You're going to add that electric or gas data from a full calendar year. So for example, January through December of the previous calendar year. You're going to run the data quality checker to see if you have any temporary values or any mismatched values. You're going to add a contact if you're sharing your data or doing some data exchange with ComEd or a coworker or colleague. You want to make sure you share after you add the contact, make sure you share that property data if that was your intention. And then you are done and you pat yourself on the back and you have benchmarked your property. And you are awesome and you can teach someone else how to do it. Energy Star has some really great, helpful additional resources. There's some data collection worksheets for property managers. So if you want to see what questions are going to be asked before you start setting up your portfolio manager account, you can download a data collection worksheet and use that with different people in your building to make sure you have all the data correct before you sit down and try and enter it. There's the portfolio manager glossary of terms that I mentioned. There's a lot of great training documents. There's also some great Energy Star tools for your home. So if you get extra excited about benchmarking your building and you want to check out things that you could do at your home, there's some great resources there as well. Also, in the follow-up email, I'm going to send some Energy Star trainings that are coming up in the coming months. There's an Energy Star 101, 201, 301 that digs in deeper to all of the things we've talked about today. So if you get extra excited about that, you can certainly check out those additional upcoming webinars put on by the EPA. But now that you've benchmarked your building, you might think your building is performing really great. You might think your building isn't performing as well as you thought, you might just want to know what other opportunities there are to improve your energy efficiency. So I wanted to just share a couple of resources to get started with that, because there are some great free resources from all of our utilities in Northeast Illinois to help get started with energy assessments. ComEd has a commercial and small business free facility assessment. It has facility assessments for customers that are over a 400 kilowatt hour peak load or customers that are under a 400 kilowatt hour peak load. This is a lot of text on this slide, but some really great resources, numbers to call, links to use to find out if you're which of those items are most useful for your building. You can sign up right online to have a facility assessment, and then a service provider will come out to your building to work on that. People's Gas has small business and mid-sized business energy assessments for commercial buildings for those that are below 400,000 therms. They'll do a current energy use summary. They'll offer ways to lower your energy costs and recommended energy savings and upgrades available, and what rebates you might be eligible for. They'll also provide you a cost-benefit analysis for upgrades, and you can call the number that's on this slide to schedule, or you can fill out a form on the website that's listed at the bottom of the slide. Nicor Gas also has free energy assessments for commercial and business. You can receive a free customized report for energy savings recommendations. It'll also offer estimated improvement costs and available rebates and incentives. Free energy saving products may be installed with this assessment as well, and you can schedule that with the number on the screen or the link at the bottom of the page. Some of the common assessment recommendations that buildings may see when they utilize these programs are upgrading your indoor and outdoor lighting, improving your HVAC equipment or controls, upgrading your insulation to ensure air leaks are sealed, or optimizing your refrigeration units to manage excess energy use. And some of the gas savings opportunities include steam trap repair and replacement, furnace and boiler repair and replacement, or steam pipe insulation. Again, these are really common things and things that both the electricity and gas utility have rebates and incentives to help use. And the energy assessment really helps identify which of those rebates and incentives you might be eligible for at your building, and where to prioritize those projects. For multifamily buildings, there's some great opportunities as well. For multifamily buildings, you can request a free energy assessment and energy saving product installation for your property. These are available for buildings 3 or more units in the ComEd, Nicor, and Peoples Gas, North Shore Gas service area. You just request one of these, and actually these utilities work all together on the multifamily assessments. The energy advisor will conduct the assessment and understand how your energy is used at the building and recommend ways that you and your tenants can save money. They can also identify opportunities for upgrades and coordinate the installation of free products in tenant units and in common areas, which is really great. Some examples of recommendations for multifamily buildings would include free programmable thermostats or smart thermostats, incentives for heat pumps, boiler replacements, or HVAC upgrades and weatherization improvements. I have links for both the ComEd and People's Gas portals to learn more about this for multifamily buildings here. And if you're going beyond that, if you've already done an energy assessment at the building and you're looking to see what other ways you can save at your building through energy rebates and incentives from the utilities, all of the utilities in our area have a great ways to save page that offers and identifies different rebates, incentives, and products to utilize within your building. So again, benchmarking is the first place to start. Once you understand that performance, understanding and addressing energy efficiency is a great next step, and the utilities have some great programs. So wanted to share that as well. We'll have upcoming webinars from the Building Energy Resource Hub, diving into some of those specific technologies and rebates from the utilities in coming months. But with that, I am going to open it up for questions and stop sharing my screen so that folks can ask any questions they have about benchmarking and gathering your energy data. So I'm going to stop my share. Thanks everyone for joining today.